The chair now recognizes Dr. Schroden for your opening statement of 5 minutes.
Chairman Pfluger, Ranking Member Magaziner, members of the subcommittee, thank you for having me here to discuss this important topic today. I'm speaking to you as a military analyst with CNA, which is a nonpartisan, nonprofit, independent research and analysis organization. For the past 15 years, I have worked continuously on security sector issues pertaining to Afghanistan for a variety of U.S. government sponsors and independent publications. I've led 5 independent assessments of Afghanistan's security forces and numerous assessments of U.S. strategy and operations in Afghanistan. In total, these efforts saw me conduct 1 deployment and 13 shorter trips to the country between 2008 and 2019. There is no question that the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan did not go as planned or as hoped. When Ambassador Zalmay Khalilzad began negotiations with the Taliban at the direction of President Donald Trump, he stated publicly that, quote, "nothing is agreed until everything is agreed," unquote. In this case, everything meant 4 main items: the withdrawal of all U.S. forces from Afghanistan, a Taliban guarantee to prevent Afghanistan from becoming a safe haven for international terrorist attacks, a framework for negotiations between the Afghan government and the Taliban, and a comprehensive ceasefire. The final agreement, signed by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, achieved only the first 2 of these goals and left the Afghan government in an even more precarious position than it was in previously. Once President Biden decided to complete the withdrawal in accordance with this agreement, the U.S. military recognized that rapid execution of it was necessary to minimize the risk to U.S. service members associated with a retrograde under threat of violence. Within 2 months of the withdrawal's commencement, it was 90% complete, a pace that was far too rapid for Afghanistan's security forces to absorb. For years prior to the withdrawal, numerous assessments showed that these forces were critically dependent on U.S. and contracted support for nearly all of their enabling functions. My own assessment of Taliban and Afghan security force capabilities, published in January 2021, concluded that after the U.S. withdrawal, quote, "the Taliban would have a slight military advantage over Afghanistan's security forces, which would then likely grow in compounding fashion," unquote. That scenario is what happened. With the U.S. withdrawal nearly complete by July 5th, the first of Afghanistan's provincial capitals falling a month later, and President Ashraf Ghani abandoning Kabul to the Taliban 9 days after that. In the year and a half since these events, al-Qaeda has remained a problem for the United States and Afghanistan. The group has relative safety under the Taliban government to exist and operate, though it currently has minimal capability to conduct attacks beyond the country. The inverse is true of the Islamic State Khorasan province, also known as ISKP. It has substantially more capability in Afghanistan than al-Qaeda, but is viewed by the Taliban as the primary challenger to their consolidation of control over the entirety of the country. The Taliban have thus conducted numerous operations and targeted raids against ISKP since the U.S. withdrawal. For its part, the U.S. established an over-the-horizon counterterrorism capability designed to monitor and conduct limited strikes against al-Qaeda and ISKP in Afghanistan. This capability is limited in its scope and in what it can detect, though it was clearly sufficient to identify and kill al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in Kabul. Recommendations by national security analysts to improve this capability have included establishing new intelligence networks in the country, negotiating basing access in a neighboring country or establishing a sea base off the coast of Pakistan, investing in longer duration drone platforms, increasing cyber and open source collection efforts, and sharing intelligence with the Taliban against our shared enemy, ISKP. Looking ahead, the Taliban's strong relationship with al-Qaeda in Afghanistan portends a consistent, albeit nascent, threat from that group to the U.S. for some time. Whether the Taliban will prevent al-Qaeda from using Afghanistan as a launchpad for external attacks remains to be seen, but the discovery of al-Zawahiri in Kabul is not encouraging. The Taliban are likely to continue operations against ISKP, and these operations may be trending toward increasing effectiveness. But the resilience of ISKP, a group that was on the rebound even before the U.S. withdrawal, augurs against its elimination anytime soon. The U.S. will thus need to maintain, and possibly expand, its over-the-horizon approaches to counterterrorism in Afghanistan for years to come. Congress would therefore be wise to demand long-term strategies for doing so and to invest in over-the-horizon counterterrorism capabilities commensurate with operational timelines of a decade or more. With that, I thank you and welcome your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Schroden, and thank you to all our witnesses for your testimony.